Hey everybody, my name's Curt Conrad, and this is West Fourth and Goal, a podcast for high school football fans in North Central Ohio. I'm joined by my co-host, Noah Jones. Noah is back from his week-long suspension for performance-enhancing drug use. Now, really, Noah was on assignment in New York City where he celebrated his 45th birthday. Noah,
even older than the script says.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
it. Gee whiz.
Tell us about the Big Apple. What was it like celebrating your 50th birthday there?
Getting older.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a fun time. I got to go down with Courtney McNall of Ashland Source, and we learned about sort of a positive aging ideas that people were doing, in part with our Gray Matters reporting that we're doing with Richland Source.
And we do some podcasting along those lines, right?
Yeah, we've got a few Gray Matters podcasts at the moment, and actually after our trip, we've decided to make it a little bit better in it's exciting. We haven't quite pinned down how we're going to be doing it, but it's going to be changing and hopefully a little bit more enticing to listeners and exciting in that way.
Probably a markedly different audience that we're catering to between West Fourth and Goal and the Gray Matters podcast. So.
I don't know, man. Everyone gets old. Everyone has to deal with it.
Absolutely. Well, before we get going here, let's take a minute to thank Andy McIntyre over at Two Cousins Pizza. Two Cousins is the official pizza of West Fourth and Goal. We can't say enough good things about Two Cousins. Andy and his team do a great job, and for my money, there's no better sauce in Richland County. If you're hungry for pizza, subs, stromboli, he has a ton of other great tasting appetizers on the menu. Give Two Cousins a call at 419-522-2211 or stop by the shop at 103 North Main Street. Again, it's Two Cousins Pizza, the official pizza of West Fourth and Goal. And Noah, while you were gone, the regular season came to an end, and now we are into the postseason here. We had 6 area teams qualify for the playoffs. We kind of expected 5 to get in. Loudonville played their way in with a big win over Canal Fulton Northwest in Week 10. That gave us 6 teams.
Yeah, that's always exciting, but got to admit it's a little bit more stressful now to cover all 6 when it's only a staff of 1 full-time sports writer. So I look forward to getting the phone call to enter coverage.
We're going to call to the pen and get the right-hander up. No, I mean we the good thing is they moved it so that playoff games last year they were all on Friday nights. This year they moved it back to Friday and Saturday.
Right.
And actually we were fortunate enough that we have 3 games on each night. That spreads the wealth a little bit more.
Yeah.
So and we've actually recruited our Knox Pages reporter to come up and cover Loudonville for us because Loudonville is kind of on the border down there.
Right.
So I mean it's going to work out very nicely. I think we're going to get all 6 of them covered this weekend.
Great.
In addition to Loudonville, other playoff teams in the area, Lexington's in, Clear Fork's in, Hillsdale, Lucas, and Mapleton. Lexington is the number 7 seed in Division III, Region 10. They'll play Tiffin Columbian on Friday. It was midway point of the regular season, and Lexington was sitting at 1-4. They had opened the season 0-3. I don't think a lot of people down there thought that the playoffs were a remote possibility, but they have.
There was a conversation you and I had in the middle of the season where we were talking about it, and you and I both sort of just said, like, it's possible mathematically, but we just didn't see it happening. So,
right.
Credit where credit's due. A great season for the Lexington.
Yeah, they won five in a row here to close it out, and that was enough to get them into the number 7 seed in Region 10. Hillsdale is a number 3 seed in Region 22 of Division 6. The Falcons, who were regional runners-up last year, will host a playoff game for the first time ever Friday. They played Northwood. Northwood is all the way up by Toledo. It's almost they'd be better off chartering a plane down here than to take a bus ride down. But it's a long drive. But it's exciting times. And over in Hillsdale, it's the first time they've ever hosted a game.
Yeah, that's exciting. We talked about that when we had your nephew,
yeah,
right?
Alex Becker's the quarterback over at Hillsdale. He's my nephew, and they a lot of excitement over there to be able to. I mean, there's some prestige that comes with hosting that first playoff game over. So it's going to be interesting because it's been raining for about the last 40 days in a row, so it's going to get a little sloppy over there. In Division 7, Lucas earned the top seed in Region 27. Lucas, and maybe not a lot of people knew about this, but they went to Lima on Saturday night and beat a previously undefeated Lima Central Catholic team 21-14. That vaulted the Cubs into the top spot in Region 27. That's a huge, huge win for them. They've actually decided to move their playoff game from Bob Line Field to Madison. They're going to play at StarTech Stadium on the artificial surface because their field was so torn up just because it's rained like the last 3 or 4 Fridays in a row, and then all that cumulative effect has just kind of rendered their field unplayable. So they're going to be at StarTech Stadium. I'll be out there on Saturday night. And then in Region...
That's a good stadium to get to cover at because I hear they give you food in the press box.
Absolutely. They take care of you out there.
Yeah.
The area's other team is in Region 25 at Division 7. That's Mapleton. That's over just a little bit north of Ashland. They are the number 3 seed, and they'll host Youngstown Valley Christian. Don't know a lot about Valley Christian. I do know that they've lost 4 in a row, so they're kind of backing into the playoffs here, so we'll see how that turns out. That brings us to the top seed in Region 14 of Division 4. The Clear Fork Colts were undefeated in the regular season for a second straight year and put the finishing touches on another perfect run through the Mid-Ohio Athletic Conference with last week's 48-14 win over Marion Harding. It was Clear Fork's 9th win of 28 points or more in 10 games. They've beaten the brakes off everyone they played. And the Colts are going to host 8 seed. It's Bryan at the Colt Corral on Saturday, and we are fortunate enough to be joined today by Clear Fork senior A.J. Blubaugh. A.J., thanks for stopping by.
No problem.
Well, before we get going, what's A.J. stand for?
Alan Joseph.
Alan Joseph Blubaugh. Well, there you go. Now it's interesting, though. AJ's a very talented wide receiver, but he's going to go play Division I college baseball here next year at Wisconsin-Milwaukee. The Panthers were right about 500 last year. Same in the Horizon League. They play in the Horizon League with Wright State and a lot of Oakland, Michigan, a lot of really good teams. AJ, just tell us how did that whole situation come about? How did Wisconsin-Milwaukee find you?
Well, I had a very fun summer season with the Brownlee Lookouts, and my recruiter Ben Simon set up a workout and he's been talking to Wisconsin-Milwaukee about me, and he had them come down all the way from there to watch me pitch, and I actually had one of my best pitching performances I've ever had. And one thing led to another. He talked to me afterwards, said, "Would you like to come down for a visit?" And as soon as it was right around Memorial Day.
Okay.
And I was like, sure. And I just want to get down there as soon as possible, really. So actually that weekend I went down I guess it'd be up.
Right.
And then I went up there, and I loved everything about it. Just the campus was absolutely gorgeous. Everything he said was just clicked for me, and it wasn't too big,
sure,
which is good for me.
Right.
But it wasn't so small that it wouldn't be off the map. But
right.
Very excited to be down there. Great coaching staff, great facilities.
Are they they want you to pitch is what they want you to do at the next level?
Yes, that's the plan.
And that's not you pitch a little bit. Pitch more than a little bit in high school, but that's certainly not the only thing you do down at Clear Fork.
Right.
What else do they have you do down there, and what do you do you enjoy playing other positions, I guess?
That has been one of the most exciting things about baseball for me, just the different things you can do growing up. I'm currently a catcher for Clear Fork, but the head coach this year, Joe Staub, he's definitely going to try to work me in at pitcher more, maybe some other positions. Basically, wherever he needs me, that's where I'll go. So. Right.
Now, you landed at Wisconsin-Milwaukee. What other schools were interested, and what kind of distinguished the Panthers for you? What made them stand out?
Lake Erie College was my first offer, and they had a great facility over there, great coaching staff. Another one was Toledo. They offered me a walk-on.
Oh, you don't want to go there.
Bowling Green grad over there.
Okay.
He's a big rivalry up that way.
Yeah, they offered me a walk-on, which was fine with me, but still just that first year just to be one of the backup guys, it wasn't really appealing to me.
Okay.
And then ODU.
Okay.
They're a good school down there, and
I think of former teammates down there, right?
Yes, that was another reason.
Thomas Staub, who graduated this past spring, is going to play center field for they're the Panthers too, right?
Right.
Yeah, down at Ohio.
They're both Panthers.
Right
That's
on.
one way to do it.
I think I read someplace where you're interested in, what is it, early education?
That's the plan, yes. I love kids, and I want to be a coach when I come back, probably here, right back to the Valley.
Is it were we talking elementary age kids, or like even before that, or?
Yeah, probably K through 3 be the plan, just somewhere in there. I don't want to get too old because then they know what they're doing, but I don't want to be too young to where they don't know what they're doing.
Right on. That's a tiny window you got to shoot for.
Developmental coach.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. You were talking to us while we were eating our Two Cousins pizza about how you were offered, or you are a coach for basketball, right?
Yeah. Coach mentioned it to me just to be one of the helpers for JV.
Yeah, well, that's exciting and
yeah.
great. I said this while we were eating, but I think that's really cool to get such cool leadership experience from a young age, and especially with your interest in early education. I mean, that's a good place to sort of begin your career.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I've always kind of wondered this. From what I understand, like Division I scholarships for football and basketball are full ride. I mean, everything's paid for. How does that work for baseball? I understand that that's generally not the case in baseball.
Full ride for baseball is very rare.
Okay.
The thing is, Division I and Division II programs get 11.7 scholarships that they're allowed to give out every year.
Okay.
So to give a full ride,
right,
you'd have one person money, and then you would only have 10.7 scholarships for the rest of your
guys. Okay.
guys. So the biggest that's usually they give out is around 40%. That's a good number if you're playing college baseball. It's something to be very proud of. So
how much, if you don't mind us asking, how much are they giving you?
They did offer me a 40%, which was one of the main reasons that I wanted to go there, because it showed their commitment to me.
Right, that's essentially as full ride as you can get in baseball.
Right.
How many players fill up a roster in baseball?
Somewhere around 30, I think.
So more than 11.
Oh, absolutely,
7.
yeah. I mean, you're splitting up 11 scholarships among 30 guys. It's
yeah, that's way different than football.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about this earlier. You played on a really, really good team here locally, all the way up through the Mansfield Mud Hens. I mean, that team had, I think every one of those guys is playing college baseball or will be playing college baseball soon enough. I think Cal Rickert was on that team. He's playing at Slippery Rock. Trey Williams is playing at Ashland University. Guys all over the place. What was that experience? I mean, how did that kind of shape you, I guess, as a young baseball player, being around guys like that?
The coaching staff, Jason Stone and Doug Rickert, growing up with them, just their IQ of the game, and growing up with those players, just having fun every summer over and over again, wanting to do it again over and over again. Just to have that experience with baseball made me love the game even more.
Right.
Like, I think that if I would grown up playing rec ball and seeing like the same people every year,
right,
and not traveling as much, wouldn't it give me the same experience that baseball has given my life growing up? And I think that travel ball has had a big impact on my baseball career.
I've known Coach Rickert and Coach Stone for a long time, and they always told me how great it was. I mean, any great Mud Hens moments for you? I mean, they seem to love taking you guys on the road, and they said it was more fun staying at the hotels and going swimming with the kids than it was to go win baseball tournaments. I mean, what's a great Mud Hen moment for you?
I think in 8U, our first year in coach pitch, one of the first things we did as a team, we won the USSSA U8 state championship. One of the first times we got together as a team. So doing that, and actually we were down 11 runs with 2 innings left. So getting that comeback and winning that was a good moment. And then just growing up and continually being successful over and over again every year, just having that experience. And then we've gone to places like Myrtle Beach. Our farthest one was probably Alabama. I think we went there in 2013, 2014, and just competing in every one of these huge tournaments, and actually as a team knowing that we were on the map. And when Coach would come up to us, like he'd be like, "Oh, I was just at the bathroom, and I heard some guys over talk saying that, did you guys hear the Mud Hens are here? Did you know them? They're crazy." Like, just to know that that's actually us and we're on the map.
Right.
To be one of those programs, just all local guys, all just regular kids just playing.
And one of the neat things for me, I mean, I've known about this team for a long, long time. And then I got to watch them, and most of them were playing varsity baseball as freshmen. So I got to watch them, even I did stories on them when they were still, youth league. So I watched them that whole time. It was neat watching them all grow up, and now they're all going to play, high level college baseball. So it's a pretty neat thing from where I'm sitting to watch those guys all grow up and then to go off and have successful college careers too.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously really great. You get to do that a lot, though. You also got to do that with LeBron James, and so you've had a pretty fortunate career as a sports writer, I think.
AJ, you play baseball now, or summer ball, with the Brownlee Lookouts. I didn't know much about these guys. Just tell us how you got hooked up with them, and where are they based out of, and who are some of the guys on those teams that might be going on to play at a higher level?
I found out with them actually after the Mud Hens. We grew out of them.
Right.
The coaches, they were getting up there in the age, so my mom took me to a bunch of tryouts because I needed to find a team, and I went to one with Ohio Elite, and that tryout went well, but the cost and the travel, I like travel, don't get me wrong, but too much travel
cost prohibitive.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a guy who has a young son who likes baseball an awful lot, and we're investigating that stuff, and that's it's a big investment if you want to get them out on the road and get them exposed to some higher level competition.
Yeah, I never did that. But man, was my t-ball team great.
Yeah.
So where are they based? Are they based out of the Akron area? Is that right?
Yeah, Akron,
Okay.
maybe Talmadge, somewhere up there north. I first joined that team 3 summers ago.
Okay.
And right from the start, just the high-intensity workouts we would have every week, because you obviously can't just have, practices,
Right.
so workouts. And the coaching staff and their knowledge of baseball and knowing what drills, and they have a whole program on if you want to throw harder, you do this, this, and this.
Right.
And sure enough, outcomes become reality, and it just all clicked. And
You were let me jump in here. You were telling us off air. You were about a 5'3", 95-pound kid coming in as a freshman in high school. Where are we at now? About 6'1", 6'2"?
6'2". I'm not as much as I want to weigh, but right around 160, somewhere in there.
Right.
Goal
How
is-
to have that dramatic of a jump? I guess. I mean, I don't know if you even know because you're going through it, but I mean that's a pretty significant thing. I mean, do you feel stronger? I guess now. I mean,
yeah.
Can you tell that?
The biggest difference would be from varsity basketball as a freshman and being the kid that everyone beat up on,
Right.
and being like, oh, I'm guarding this kid, and me saying I'm guarding that kid, to now, hopefully this year, me being that big guy,
Right.
looking down on freshmen and being like, oh, I have to guard this kid, and them looking up at me. So just seeing the tables turn.
Well, just jumping back just a little bit, you're talking about how, there's an emphasis on throwing harder and harder in the game. You sort of emphasize with your knuckleball throwing slower, and we were talking while we were eating beforehand about location being super important. Can you just talk to the listeners about that?
Right. I think pitchers nowadays just think that if they throw harder, that they're going to be better. But as you can see in the majors, yes, they throw hard, but just where the catcher puts their mitt, if they hit that spot, 90% of the time the batter won't do much with it. So just having that accuracy and location ability and just being able to work all your pitches in the strike zone is very important these days.
Talk to us a little bit about the knuckleball, because that's one of the sort of dying pitches in baseball, but you clearly have one, and you're sort of helping keep it alive. Talk to us a little bit about the work that goes into even learning how to throw one.
It's definitely something you have to practice over and over again. I think a lot of things go into it. It can be weather. If it's too cold, you can't grip it as well. And then if you bite your nails off, or they're too long,
Right.
that goes into it. And then if it's windy, obviously the wind will move it more, but sometimes if you can't throw it and it moves too much, it's hard to throw for a strike. So you have to find that happy medium,
Right.
where to throw the pitch, where to start it, and how hard to throw it, because the movement of the knuckleball, the pitcher doesn't know where it's going, no one knows where it's going, so...
And as a catcher yourself, I'm sure you're sort of
Oh, yeah.
hoping for some sort of something I don't know what the right term would be, but maybe you're always thanking your catcher for being able to catch the knuckleball at the end of it because you understand how difficult it can be or challenging it can be to be able to get one.
Right, to find that catcher that you just click with and he gets you and he knows this is coming and I'm going to catch it, just to have that and to see their smile afterwards on a good knuckleball, or if I'm like just playing catch with someone and I throw a good one and just to see their eyes light up and be like, wow. That's just one of the reasons I just love throwing it, just to see that reaction.
Now, I know in the major leagues, the pitchers who throw or who threw knuckleballs always carried around with them their own larger catcher's mitt. Do you have one of those, or is it just up to the catcher to be prepared?
I don't really mess with what the catchers like, but
Gotcha.
if they want a bigger catcher's mitt, if that's what it takes for them to catch me, I mean, that'll work.
Gotcha.
And we talked a little bit. I mean, you've been on some really good baseball teams down at Clear Fork in the last few years. They've qualified for the state tournament. But we were talking about, and it would have been, when you were, 9, 10 years old, but about the 2010 Clear Fork baseball team that they were the Division III state champs. Best high school pitcher I've ever seen pitch for that team, Travis Hissong. They had there were probably 4 or 5 guys on that team who went on to play college baseball, and Hissong played professionally. How instrumental, I guess, was that in your young baseball career, seeing those guys and thinking, man, I'd like to do what they're doing?
Oh yeah, we still talk about them to this day. I think by far the best team to ever come through this area, Clear Fork, all them, and just to watch them growing up and just be like, man, I want to be like them someday.
Right.
And then Joe Staub coming back and coaching with us, be like, he did this, he knows what he's talking about, he knows what it takes, and just feeding off what he says and his energy. And then that's a big thing with him. Just that 2002 team had energy.
Right.
And so that's a big thing we try to focus on this past couple years, and it's been working out with us just to have that energy and to have that senior leadership. It's a big key component to being successful.
Right. And 2016 team qualified for they were in the Final Four in Division III. That was your freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't dress on that team.
I did not. It was
2017. You guys get back to the Final Four, and you were starting on that team. What's that experience like playing down at Huntington Park?
Yes,
down
it
there?
is.
Yeah, down in Columbus, the home of the Clippers. It's got to be pretty neat to walk out of the dugout and just take that all in. What's that like?
It's absolutely breathtaking. Just basically at that age, all you're doing, at least from my view, I was trying to please the juniors and seniors.
Sure.
We didn't have a big senior class that year, but the junior class, I grew up with most of them, like Thomas Staub, Jared Lynn, just that leadership that they bestowed upon me. I want to make them happy, and then in the long run, I'll make the team happy and the community happy.
Right. We got you here. We might as well talk a little bit about football. And it occurred to me, because I know you're going to go play baseball at a high level. I mean, baseball is a game that you play every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's 162 games a year. It's an everyday thing for 7 months. You play football once a week. What's the difference, I guess, in mentality? I mean, is football just a lot more adrenaline, emotion based than baseball is? I mean, what's your approach like? How's it different between football and baseball?
For baseball, I think it's a lot more mind-focused, which obviously you need in football too, but for baseball, I think the most important thing being calm, being focused, focusing on what you need to do, how you need to do it, and like if you're up to bat all hype, you're probably not going to do very good. You have to be calm. But for football, I think it's emotional, you need your head straight, you need your body straight, you need to be in very keen precision, and then just the heart and soul that goes into it and playing for your brothers on the field. I think that all those factors I think all sports are similar, but definitely have their differences.
Right. I think you lead the team with 30 catches this year. I think 450 yards and 6 touchdowns. There was a time not so long ago, when I was covering Clear Fork, where that would have been a great career, let alone one season. I mean, and there's a bunch of you guys having career years as receivers. You guys throw the ball. I think your quarterbacks have combined for 2,000 passing yards. I mean, is it a lot more exciting, I guess, to be throwing the ball around the way you guys do this year? I mean, I guess that's all you've known, but I mean,
Right.
There were times not so long ago where it was double tight ends and 2 running backs, and you're going to go 5 yards at a time.
For sure. Growing up, me and Caden Flynn, the other receiver, be like, man, do we ever pass the ball? Just watching the teams or whatever, and be like, man, we better learn how to block and stuff. I mean, we still have to do that now, but Coach Carroll, he knows what works, and once he finds what works, he continues to do it at a very high level and knows what plays to call. So if he sees this play working, this pass play working, he will call it. And it's very fun knowing that we will run the ball and throw the ball equally. And
Now, do you have a favorite quarterback since you sort of have two?
Well, Jared, he's in my grade, and he's a senior. I've known him probably longer than Brennan, but Brennan, he's been my quarterback longer. So they have Jared is known for being the smarter. He knows what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And Brennan, he's just a freak athlete at quarterback position. The arm strength and the precision and how fast he throws the ball. Both quarterbacks are absolutely unbelievable. So I don't know.
Whoever's throwing you the ball,
right?
And we're talking Jared Schaefer, who was a guest earlier in the season. He and Brennan South have almost shared time equally. They've both gone over 1,000 yards. Schaefer is, I got it here, 54 out of 87, 1,016 yards and 12 touchdowns. South is 53 and 91 for 1,021 yards. So they're 5 yards difference there, and 11 touchdowns. I mean, is there? Do they throw it differently? I mean, do you have to make adjustments? I mean, if we blindfolded you and had you catch, I guess it would be hard to catch passes blindfolded.
Right. I wasn't going to say anything.
But I mean, can you tell a difference? I mean, can you tell whose ball is coming at you?
I think I could. I think Jared puts a little less on it. I know Brennan, he absolutely I think he grunts when he throws it. But he definitely has his touch passes where he just lays it right in there for you. But both quarterbacks can throw it hard, can throw it soft. So I don't know.
Now it's been raining in Mansfield for about the last 40 days straight. It seems like
I know I'm gonna have to build an ark soon.
I mean, and there's chance of more rain coming tomorrow. I think it might let off by the time you guys play Saturday. Do you do things? I mean, are you doing special things this week to prepare for potentially playing it in wet conditions?
Oh yeah, we'll use a wet ball for our center, and then for receiver drills, if a ball gets wet, I mean it's gonna get wet in a game. So, obviously the Pleasant game, it was raining,
right.
But it wasn't downpour. But having the ball boys and be like, all right guys, talking to the young kids or whatever, and them looking at you, and because I used to be a ball boy,
right.
So and I know what it's like to be them. Be like, all right, just get the ball in every time you can, because it helps having that new ball. And then the Harding game, that was just downpour the whole game. So knowing that the ball, you got to catch it differently. You can't just catch it. You got to put your hands together and cup it, or however you do it, catch it with your body. It definitely plays a big factor.
And Belleville's kind of down in the valley down there. What's the field like right now? Is it kind of sloppy?
It's definitely sloppy. I'm hoping Saturday it dries up.
So I was wondering. I mean, and I've always kind of wondered. I mean, you guys have been doing what you do all season, and you've been doing it really well. I mean, is there that much? I mean, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel this week in practice. I mean, what do you guys do in preparation for a playoff game? Is it just going over the things you've already done? I would assume that you guys aren't hitting anymore, right? I mean, or are you?
I mean, obviously we do tackling drills, but nothing too crazy. And then basically we have our scouting report, and Coach Carroll has his game plan, and he has the plays he wants to run, and then he has plays that he knows there's a very low chance that we won't run. So we'll just go over the plays that are high in reps that we will run during games all this season, and we'll just go over those usually. We don't really have many new plays, or none that I feel like saying.
Right. You don't want to give any secrets away here.
Right.
Clear Fork was 10-0 last year. You were primarily a JV guy last year.
Right.
But that varsity team was 10-0. But they won 2 games in overtime. They kicked a walk-off field goal to win another game. There were a lot of close games. This year, I mean, you guys are just beating the brakes off of people. I mean, what's the difference, I guess, between this year and last year, do you think?
I think last year that the seniors, we had a lot of energy, just looking up to them and learning from them. Like Coach says, they built the Clear Fork football today because they went through, like my freshman year would be would have been their sophomore year, the seniors last year.
Mm-hmm.
We were 3-7,
Right.
and then my sophomore year 3-7 again. And I think my 8th grade year we were either 2-8 or 4-6, but another awkward season.
Non Clear Fork style year. You know?
Right. So having them and being a junior now and them being seniors and to see what they have gone through. And then we moved conferences to the MOAC.
Right.
But still, I think in the OCC we still would have competed.
Oh, absolutely.
But to see them prosper and to see what they did that season really build off this season and just really worked out this year. And
you mentioned it. I mean, you guys changed. You moved to the MOAC. You guys have 10-0 for a second year in a row. You've never lost an MOAC game. Do you feel? I mean, that can't go on forever. I mean, it's just the nature of things. I mean, you're just
it's not how sports work.
right. You're just,
Yeah.
Clear Fork's just in a good cycle. But I mean, do you feel like this is a better fit conference-wise for Clear Fork? It seems like you guys are. I mean, it's not that. I mean, I covered some really good Clear Fork teams that won OCC championships, but those were, once in a generation. Jordan McCune's the running back teams,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that doesn't happen, all the time. But, I mean, do you feel like this is a better fit, athletic-wise? I mean, you guys fit in with these size schools a little bit better?
yeah, playing the OCC, just the school size and, like, even walking in the school and being like, wow,
Right.
And then just the size of the players and the number of players that they had. And I think the MOAC is more equal to us. I mean, I don't think we're the biggest school in our conference, and we're still competing at a high level. So just to see it all work out now and to see all the sports teams prosper after what we've been through in the OCC
Right.
and getting our butts kicked. So it all kind of worked out.
Okay. And I think, I don't think that there's just more good. I don't think athletically that, the kids at senior high or Madison or Ashland are better athletes. I just think there's more of them.
Oh,
yeah.
For
and
sure.
I mean, that when there's, when you have 12 of those guys instead of just 4, it makes a big difference. And we were talking a little bit about, I mean, Jordan McCune's my favorite running back all time, but you guys have a guy this year who's a pretty darn good running back himself, Trayvon Trammell. Just talk about, I mean, athletically, from what I've seen, he takes a back seat to nobody. I mean, he's a pretty darn good athlete. What's it like playing with a guy like that?
Growing up with Trey has been an experience for sure. I think just growing up and watching what he can do.
Right.
And, like, he lifts just as much as our linemen, and to see him do that at his size and to see where he's been and where he is now and just to see him grow like that, just to play with that high of an athlete. And even his sister, Deja Swihart, probably one of the best athletes to come through Clear Fork.
Right.
One of our only All-Americans,
Yeah,
I think.
she's an All-American.
Oh, yeah.
Playing Division II college soccer over at Ashland University. So
Oh, yeah.
She's a darn good soccer player at the collegiate level too.
Oh, yeah, those two are just God-given talent.
Right.
And to see that all work out now, to see him get 1,000 yards, and I think no one gets me more excited than Trey,
Yeah.
for sure, just because he's usually, like, calm or whatever, but once he gets on that football field, he's a new person. Just being around him is so fun.
Right. And in addition to playing baseball and football, you're a basketball player too. And we talked to Jared a little bit about this earlier in the year. I mean, Clear Fork has won baseball state championships. They've won a basketball state championship since 2000. I think 2002 was that year. The football program is the most tradition-rich in the area. I mean, if you were picking one, what's Clear Fork known for? Are they a football school? Or are they a baseball school or basketball school?
I think whatever is in season.
Right on.
Right.
I think that's what Jared said too.
Yeah, that is the politically correct way to go.
I think the community really buys into it. We always have, like, if we have an away game, I think our attendance is just as much as the home team. So
The Colts travel well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
just to have that support at every single game throughout the year, even in basketball games, I look in the stands and I see the same old Clear Fork guys all together, bunched up, talking, and then just.
They were probably the same guys who were in the stands down at the Schottenstein Center in 2002 when they won a state championship.
Right.
You guys get a home game this week. You guys play Bryan. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll talk about the game and we'll talk about the rest of the area playoff game. So stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to West Fourth and Goal, a podcast for North Central Ohio high school football fans. We're here with Clear Fork's A.J. Blubaugh. And A.J., thanks for coming down again. We certainly appreciate it. You get the Colts host Bryan on Saturday night in the Division IV Region 14 quarterfinals. Without giving away too many secrets, what do you think about Bryan? What do they do well, and what are you going to have to do to kind of slow them down?
I think they're a very well-rounded team. I think that definitely if we had to choose one thing to stop, it'd be their pass.
Mm-hmm.
They pass a lot more than their run, but their quarterback is probably our main concern. Our game plan is to shut down the quarterback, make sure he doesn't get out of the pocket, keep him surrounded, and then to cover each player with high intensity and to have that drive. And then offensively, I don't think we're going to change too much. Obviously, it's been working out pretty well for us.
Right.
So just to keep that the mistakes low, for sure, because weather permitting, hopefully it doesn't rain, but
right.
Having that low amount of turnovers and all good snaps, all no drops. I've heard that one a couple times.
How does the weather affect the I mean, obviously the ball is potentially more slick. But can you sort of explain to people like me who've only ever watched a football game how much harder it is to catch a wet ball?
Yeah, you would think that all you would have to do is, tighten your hands or whatever, but the ball still finds a way with it spinning. If you have that little crease in your hands, it will still surprise you and find a way right through it. And then to throw a football, being a former quarterback, just to find that grip and to still throw it at a spiral. You can't, obviously, you aren't going to be as accurate. You aren't going to be able to throw it as far. You almost just have to push it out there. And then it starts with the center, too. The center getting the ball back there to the quarterback. So the number of people who have to touch the ball and starting on the grass and it hitting rain constantly just gets the ball more wet. And then by the time it hits your hands, maybe Trayvon is going to have to some extra touches.
A lot of things can go wrong when you're passing a football in wet weather, it seems
right.
like. Let's go to the Friday night games first. Lexington is at Tiffin Columbia, and we were just mentioned with AJ off the air. You guys were in a three-way scrimmage with Lexington and Loudonville and yourselves, and lo and behold, all three teams are in the playoffs. What do you remember about that? I mean, what's Lexington do well besides have the best player in the state playing for them?
Right. Cade, he's definitely a force to be reckoned with. Just the position that he plays on defense, that rover, just gives him that freedom that he needs to fully be Cade Stover. And they have a really good quarterback, and then Cade at running back too. He's just a freak athlete, God-given, and he's really worked at his craft. And then they have a big offensive line too. On defensive, the side right there, they have good linebackers. It's a well-rounded team if they just all click, no mistakes, and I think they can really fight with anyone.
Right. And they are at Tiffin Columbia, and I don't know if I mentioned that or not on Friday. It's Region 10 of Division 3, and really that region, I mean, that's the stuff that I pay attention to all year long, but that region is not as necessarily as strong as it has been in the past. It seems to me like it's very wide open. There was a time when Toledo Central Catholic was a Division III school.
Right.
They got bumped up for competitive balance reasons, and they're in Division II now. But so the teams that are in D3, I mean, it's Clyde, it's Columbia, and it's Bay Village, it's Norwalk, Bowling Green, Sandusky. Everyone has at least 2 losses, which is unusual. I mean, it's not that usually there's going to be the class of the region who's 10-0, like you guys are, like Clear Fork is in that region. But everyone has 2 losses, which suggests to me that it's wide open. And I mean, and like we said, and we've said all year long, when you have a big gun, and Lexington certainly has a big gun, you're going to shoot it just as often as you can. And
right.
I'll take Cade Stover in my chances, in a playoff game like that.
Absolutely.
So, that other team in your three-way scrimmage, Loudonville, is a team that clawed its way into the playoffs with a Week 10 win. They are at Seneca East. It's Division 6, Region 22. Was there anything that you saw when you scrimmaged them all those weeks ago that suggested that they might be a playoff team too?
I couldn't see it coming, to be honest. They're a good running team. They pack it in for the most part and just grind it out, really. They pass the ball every once in a while, but They surprised me, I'm not going to lie. But
Right, and they have a new coach this year, Kevin Maltrich, he spent a year at Madison several years ago now, I guess it's been. Then he went to West Holmes, which is where he was from, and then he spent some time on Ashland University's coaching staff. And he's a wing T guy. I mean, he's run that offense just about every place he's been. But I mean, they're doing it very well down there at Loudonville. I mean, they were 0-10 last year. And just to get to this position is a pretty impressive feat to go. Hey, that's a 5-win. I mean, I think they were 5-5 going into the playoffs, but that's a 5-win improvement over last year in football. That's a tough thing to do. The other Division 6 team in the same region, Region 22, they get to host. We talked a little bit about it earlier. Hillsdale is hosting a team called Northwood. It's up near Toledo. Hillsdale was a regional runner-up last year. They lost a record-setting quarterback, Trey Williams, who's playing baseball. AJ, you played some baseball with him on the Mud Hens. He's playing baseball at AU now. But and then to replace that, they Alex Becker is the quarterback now. He's done a nice job. He's more of a run pass option guy more than Trey was more of a traditional drop back passer. It seems to me like they're pretty dynamic offensively, and they have probably one of the best kept secrets in the area. A guy who plays defensive end. His name's Michael Garn, and he's a guy who's pretty much unblockable. I think he has 11 or 12 sacks this year. That field's going to be sloppy. I mean, like a lot of natural grass fields are going to be this weekend. It's going to be a lot between the tackles. There's not going to be a lot of balls thrown around, I don't think, on Friday night. So, and that's what Hillsdale does well, is they run the football. So I think that they've given themselves a pretty good situation to be in. I mean, that's a region that's, it's top heavy, but they got a puncher's chance to win a few games and maybe get to a state semifinal game potentially.
Plus, being able to host is going to help them with home field advantage for the first time in a state playoff.
Yeah, absolutely, and I don't think you can. You can probably speak to that. I mean, you know how rabid your fans are at home. I would imagine playing at home's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yep. I think personally we have one of the best student sections. That plays a big game because they always tell me the stories. They're like, oh, yeah, we were talking to number 27, and he turned around and looked at us, so we know we were in his head. So
right,
having them there and knowing that we can always count on them to be loud when we want them to or stuff like that just really helps out.
Right. Another team who's hosting with an asterisk, that's a Saturday night game. Lucas is kind of at home. I guess they're playing their game at StarTech Stadium out at Madison because their field was too sloppy to play on. They're playing a team, Hannibal River, that they played in week 9, and they beat them by 50 points. And I just can't imagine that if I'm Coach Scott Spittler down at Lucas that I'm excited, even despite the one-sided nature of that game. I wouldn't want to play the same team a second time, in 3 week span. I don't know. There's just something about that.
Well, I covered their first two, or not their first two. My first 2 seasons of covering playoff football, I covered their first game of the playoffs, and they lost both of those. So it might be sort of stressful too in that regard. Just making sure they come up with a game plan to be victorious.
Right, and I think
especially against the team they've already played. This got to be a little bit more challenging.
Right. There's no secrets now. I mean, they know what to expect from each other. So it's one of those game of adjustments. I think Lucas has lost in the first round. I think the last 3 years. No, the last 2 years.
Yeah. Well, it's been both that I've covered.
Right, and both those games were wildly winnable games for Lucas. I think they lost by those 2 games by a combined 4 or 5 points. So, I mean, and this team, I covered them when Jeb Grover, who was a guest early in the season, when he was a freshman, and that was a team that made it to the regional finals. This team, I think, compares favorably to that team because they have a quarterback and Logan Nicewander who can throw the ball around a little bit. And that team in 2015 was the same way. They had a kid named Ruben Luna, who was a pretty darn good quarterback and probably the best punter in the area that I've seen in a long time, but that's a topic of conversation for a different time. But regardless, I mean, you got to be able – in the playoffs, teams tend to take away what you do best and make you play left-handed. And it's no secret that what Lucas does best is run the football.
Right.
But they got a guy who can throw it a little bit, so I suspect it's going to be knock on wood here, hopefully, it's going to be a nice long run for the Cubs here, and they could find themselves in a state semifinal game in a few 3 weeks down the road here.
Yeah.
The other Division 7 team that's still alive is Mapleton. I saw the Mounties in week 1. They played Hillsdale, and Hillsdale hung one on them. I mean, I think Hillsdale beat them by 30-some points. Mapleton, has been playing really well since then. They got a quarterback who's rewritten all the record book over there. And like we said at the start of the show, they're playing a team that's kind of stumbled into the playoffs here with 4 straight losses. So there's a pretty good chance. I mean, I feel pretty strongly that 6 teams playing this weekend, and I would give all 6 of those area teams a pretty good chance to win this their opening round playoff game. So it should be an exciting time here in the foreseeable future for football in Richland County and Ashland County.
Yeah.
That's going to do it today. We certainly appreciate A.J. Blubaugh from Clear Fork for stopping by, and tune back in next week, and we'll have another edition of West Fourth and Goal. Thanks.